Farm Simulator 2022 is exactly what it sounds like, and it was made by Giant Software. Now, Farm Simulator 2019 is something I've actually already reviewed on this channel a little while back, in a review that went on for far too long, really. And 2022 is an improvement in nearly every way I can think of. You manage a farm, choosing from one of three of the, by default, in-game maps. One based on Europe, which is this one based on America, and one based on a sort of alpine region, or from a small but ever-expanding selection of pretty high-quality modded maps. And do what you can to turn a profit on your little patch of land, both expanding it and your machines and buildings as you go along. Almost entirely focused on a fairly impressive machine side of things. You'll use both a selection of real-world machines, such as this Valtra here, to the game's Giant Software's own Lizard brand of vehicles, to grow for various crops, care for animals, and even go logging if you feel like it. All of these tasks are reasonably in-depth, and you can go, as far as realism is concerned, you can go into it kind of as far as you want with each of these tasks. You can, for example, grow crops on a realistic set of seasons, with crops only plantable and harvestable at certain times of year, with crops needing full care and being trampled if you just drive over them without the right tyres and whatnot. Or you could disable a lot of these features like rocks and crop destructions for an easier version of things. To give you an idea of how sort of in-depth things go, we're using grass as an example, and yes, you might deliberately want to actually grow grass even. You could just chop it and sell it directly. You could dry it out into hay and then do stuff with it. You could bale it. You could use it for biofuel by turning it into silage first, or use the silage to feed animals. There's a whole bunch of things you could do with it. Now, new for this game are several new features. First of all, rocks that will be churned up in various amounts and sizes, depending on what you're doing with your fields, that will cause your harvesters to wear out faster if you don't clear them up first. There's also things like rolling your fields, which jury's still out if that actually does any benefit in real world, but in this game will grant a small bonus to your yield and could also crush rocks back into the ground. The various types of cultivator actually have different variations now, with certain types being faster or requiring more or less horsepower, some of them churning up larger or smaller or even no stones. And yes, power harrows are still garbage. Do not use them. They are just outright worse than any other type. There's literally no benefit as far as I can tell. They're small, they need high power, and they are slow. There's also some new crops. Olives and grapes are in now, which need specific small-scale machines and special vines to grow along with unique harvesters, and is a job that can't really be done by workers. But also they're very low maintenance and don't need much to actually do with them once the crops are in. AR workers have additionally been improved that can drive your machines places and never actually seem to be able to complete pick-up and drop-off jobs because they never seem to actually be able to reach the destination they're aiming for, despite it being very clear. I'm not sure what's out there really, but I'm assuming it's a bug. There's also, I believe I mentioned new crops earlier. I think I forgot to mention there's also sorghum now, which is a new type of grain crop. There's also, lastly, for the major additions I can think of at the moment, is the addition of the production system, which used to be a set of mods in 2019. Effectively placeable factories that you can drive your goods to, well, turn them into different types of goods that are worth more over time. Actually, working on your fields takes quite a lot more than you'll maybe expect, depending on how much you know about farming. You'll need to plough them every now and then when they get too compacted, which is a task that's often slow and needs a lot of horsepower. Then you might have to spread lime on it if the field needs it to keep it suitable for growing in effectively. Then, once you've got as far as that, you'll need to cultivate the soil ready to plant on with a selection of various different methods you can use to do that. Then you'll need to probably want to pick up whatever rocks have been churned up onto the field. After that, pick what you want to plant on the field and sow it onto said fields. Then you'll need to fertilise twice, and no, you can't just go over the thing twice in a row. You'll need to wait a stage of growth before fertilising, it won't help. And you probably need to weed the field at some point too. Oh, did I mention you'll have multiple options for how to do all these steps along the way? Fertiliser can mean a lot of different things after all, from liquid slurry made from animal waste, to solid fertiliser, to runoff from biogas plants, to both solid and chemical liquid fertilisers. And at the end of it, like he's been doing over there, you'll then need to actually harvest your fields and either store or sell the crops. Animals are also their own thing in this particular game. While some of them, like my little, see the little brightly coloured beehive down there, need basically no attention whatsoever. Same, I believe, is true for the dog. Some of them will need quite a bit of care and attention from needing food, water, straw for bedding, etc. And food is usually best in a mix, not just a single type of food. But in exchange, you'll gain eggs, wool, slurry, manure, more of the animals, which you can sell for money, milk, and a bunch of other goods that can either be sold directly or processed into more things. As far as I'm aware, these animals don't die if they're left without attention, but you also won't get anything from them either, so once you've got them, you'll need to care for them, or you, well, won't be benefiting from them. Forestry is another option you can go with to making money on your farm. You can either go low-tech, like I'm doing here, with a chainsaw, manually cutting down trees, trimming branches, and chucking the said trees chopped up in the back of a pickup, for example, to much larger equipment such as this automated tree harvester that will... Well, I'll give you a look at how fast this thing works, and then remember that these things are a thing that work in real life. These are actual machines that exist. Yeah, pretty impressive, huh? There's also a few additional options for wood cutting, as you can either sell the trees as these single logs, which will be worth more the larger and straighter they are, although of course get more difficult to transport the larger they are. They can be shredded down into wood chips, which could also be made from chewing up poplars with a dedicated harvester as well, which are easier to transport, as they can just go in the back of any old trailer, but are worth less individually. While the game does have a whole host of small improvements over the previous entry in the series, like, for example, pallet handling, like I've been doing to stack up these trays of planks over here, feeling a lot more reliable, a lot nicer, and it gains various improvements, things like graphics, etc. It's not without some flaws. This no spare capacity for planks one is a recent one that's been annoying me, which is the game constantly telling me that it's like, your timber factory here is already full of planks, and I'm just like, yes, but if I put them here, it automatically loads them in. It saves me effort. It's like, yes, but we're still going to give you the warning every second. Also, deers clipping over things rather interestingly. That's another small one. The other big one I can think of is that while you will no longer be stuck behind extremely slow-moving cars in a tractor, which obviously feels like a slightly strange reversal of the natural order of things, they also seem to be much less cautious these days, and I found that they'll frequently smash into you pulling out of a junction, despite the fact that A, your machine is extremely large, obvious, and probably would be given some right of way to some extent. There's also the fact that despite being like sort of maybe 5 times the weight and probably 10 times the traction on the ground, they always seem to come off better than you, which is unusual. The physics is still on about the same level as 2019 for the most part. Not terrible, but certainly with the odd jank moment. Being able to lift your own machine with your own lifters is quite common. I'm not sure if a tractor could actually do that or not. I just had to consider. There's also the issue that while the game has mod support, and it's good mod support, there's already a great deal of unique mods, and quite high quality ones actually. In fact, I would argue very high quality on average compared to some games I've seen. It just doesn't have the sheer volume that 2019 has just yet. I imagine it might catch up eventually, but it's not there yet. I also do miss some of my old favourites from the mods. Particularly I think it's the dual screw harvester and the force strip machines that I really like. Overall though, I'm definitely a big fan of 2022. I wasn't even originally expecting to like 2019. And I never even paid for it. I got it free off of Unreal's free games things, but it really grew on me over time, and this really does feel like an upgrade all around. It's similar, but it's just been improved in most ways, really, with more to do and more options, alongside some fancier looking new machines, some old ones coming back, and it still gets new content added to it frequently, in the forms of both free updates and DLC. I believe just recently we got this new machine from a completely new brand that they're working with. I believe it's a slurry spreader, that one. So yes, and I think it's set to do so for some time. So as... no, it's a similar score, but as with Pathfinder that I did recently, I'm going to give it another 8 out of 10. It's not quite perfect. There's the odd bit of jank, but it's very good and extremely solid to already, I think, very good formula. If you haven't played Farm Simulator, I can recommend them. You might not think you'd be interested, but you might be surprised. Especially if you want something relaxing. Very good one for, I've had a hard day, I want something simple. And yes, if you've watched this all the way through and you want to support either me or the channel, I am a developer as well. I've got a couple of games that have come out. I've got a second one that's coming out very soon. I believe just a few days in the case of when this video will be going up. And I've also got a previous game that's been out for a while. Previous game, IORC, is a sort of I kind of consider it like you're a fireman but for falling space debris. You might like that one, get to fly around a little spaceship and everything. And the new one coming out is Sel Quinta, the Six City Quest, which is an RPG. You might like that one. There's some interesting twists and turns, I think, in the story. You might... you know how that was going, and yeah, until next time.